Hello and welcome to the Unstoppable Indians. Every week we take a journey into the life of an outstanding Indian, a person whose talent, acumen or moral example is transforming India. The best, the finest from every field join me, Manvi Dhillon, on this show to share their life story, their journey to success, some of the knocks along the way, what made them get up and keep going, what makes them an unstoppable Indian. There are so many descriptions I could use for my guest today. A technology titan, a compassionate capitalist, a master of strategy, a hound for execution. Here's the philosophy he lives by. A clear conscience is the softest pillow. It's better to forego $1 billion than a good night's rest. Yes, my guest today is Narayanamurthy, Chief Mentor and Chairman of the Board at Infosys Technologies. Mr. Murthy, it's a pleasure to be here at the Infosys campus and of course to be in conversation with you. Thank you for joining us on the Unstoppable Indians.
Well, it is a pleasure to be interacting with you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
When you started out in 1981 with that famous 10,000 rupee loan from your wife?
Well, with all the wives.
Yeah. All the wives.
Together.
What had you dreamt of building?
No, you know, frankly, I don't think we dreamt that we would come this far. I don't think we dreamt that we would be 92,000 people. We would probably have 10 or 12 million square feet of space. I don't think we dreamt we would be $4 million plus in revenue, $1 billion plus in profits, around $20 billion in market cap, operating in 39 countries. None of that was dreamt. I think what was very clear in our mind right from day one was that we would seek respect from every one of our stakeholders, customers, employees, investors, vendor partners, government of the land and the society, because our logic was if we sought respect from every one of these stakeholders, revenues would automatically come, profits would come, etc., etc.
You know, that's the part, to be honest, that I don't understand. When you say that you sought respect from all stakeholders and everything else would follow, how do you actually hold that in your hand? How do you grasp at something tangible like respect from stakeholders? How do you break it down into a process so that all of Infosys can identify with it?
Well, it is not that difficult in the sense that you articulate your value system in a very clear and concise manner. For example, we use the acronym C-LIFE for our value system. That is C-LIFE, customer focus, leadership by example, integrity and transparency, fairness and excellence in execution. So we have created several case studies to demonstrate this value system. We have leaders talking about it, and then people see us walking the talk. And there are situations where you could take a shortcut, and we don't do that. And once you demonstrate the value system by deed, then you know the grapevine travels so fast
and it replicates itself.
It replicates itself.
You know, I want to ask you this. The 7 co-founders of Infosys, there's been such a long and an exciting journey. How has it worked? Is there something that unites you all in your philosophy, or is there actually, you know, a perfect puzzle that comes together with all 7?
Well, the best thing about Infosys is the value system. Frankly, in 1981, when I put together the team, I chose my other 6 co-founders. Of course, they were all much younger than me, purely based on the value system. Because one co-founder was older than me, Mr. Raghavan, but all others were younger. So my primary criteria were: 1, they had to have a common value system; second, they should have some kind of a complementary strength, etc. So
we stand or sit today in this wonderful campus, and the growth of Infosys is reflected in the numbers. What I want to know is whether Narayanamurthy feels satisfied with where Infosys is today.
Not really, because as I often say, and in fact I said that even on the 25th year celebration of Infosys founding in Mysore, I said, we have taken the initial few steps because in my opinion, a corporation must exist for literally 100, 200 years before it can say it has arrived. So on that scale, we are still toddlers.
Do you think it's difficult, more difficult now when you call yourself a toddler still? Or was it actually more difficult early on? Does the level of difficulty in managing a company actually increase with scale?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think when we were very small, our resources were limited. There was so much of friction to business in the country. There were all kinds of limitations on us. Today, when we are much bigger, we have a lot more resources, we have a lot more facilities. The friction to business in India is much less. We have much better global exposure, all of that. However, there are different kinds of challenges. So I think you have different sets of challenges in different orbits.
What was the worst moment in your career when you look back?
Well, certainly there are many, but the one that I would remember very clearly is when we had to let go of a very important colleague of mine on the board. And that was a very difficult situation because I did like him a lot. I have a lot of respect for him even today. He's a wonderful person, very competent, all of that. But then, we had to take the decision, and many people from the industry felt that we were not doing the right thing because he was such a good person in his work. But it was a difficult decision.
That would count among the most difficult decisions in your life.
Definitely, in my corporate life.
I believe there was also a moment in your corporate life in, I think 1990, when all of you co-founders were ready to call it a day, and there was actually an offer for $1 million. But you actually stood out and convinced everybody to go along with the idea of Infosys. Where did you find the strength at that stage to go on?
Well, my view was that we had already run this marathon for about 9 years. We had made lots of sacrifices. We had already gotten used to making lots of sacrifices, living very simply. Our wives were very cooperative. They had already given up on us, and then we said from now onwards it should be easy. Why don't we continue a little bit more on this journey? So that was really, there was a lot of upside, but there's hardly any downside. And that's how I, in some way, prevailed upon my colleagues to continue this journey.
One is tempted to take so many paths with you, but I do really want to get a sense of the Indian technology industry. And it's played the role of challenger. Now it's achieved a certain scale. Is it time for the challenger to get challenged? Is the challenger getting challenged?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, every day we have new issues, new problems, new challenges. There is no doubt at all. In fact, I would always say that today it's the nimble ones that eat the big ones, right? It's not really, size has value, but not as much value as it used to have 50 years ago or 30 years ago. So in that sense, certainly those corporations which use speed, imagination and excellence in execution are the ones that will survive and succeed. So it is absolutely necessary for us to come out with new ideas, new paradigms. It is necessary for us to keep our employees happy, our customers happy, our investors happy. So I don't think the ride is easy.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're faring?
I would probably say 6.
So that leaves some pretty significant headroom.
Yeah, of course. But remember that we Infosians are not used to giving high marks. So.
Out of all your competitors, whether here in India or around the world, is there one that you really admire for embodying the ideals that you would like to see?
Oh, I think we have learned a lot from every one of our competitors. There is no doubt at all, and we respect them. One of the articles of faith at Infosys is never ever underestimate your competitors. Always respect them. Learn what you can from them, and that's the way you can beat them.
I want to talk a little bit about Infosys, and you know, it's really set the bar on so many fronts. I'm personally very happy that ESOPs were pioneered by Infosys. It was the first Indian company to be listed on a US exchange. Is there any other first that you'd like to see soon?
Well, you know, I mean, it'll be nice if we become the first Indian company to be among the top 10 in the best managed companies in various markets that we operate in, the best employer, most respected, etc. So it will be nice, but still we are a long way off from that.
Transparency and corporate governance, those have been two issues as well very close to your heart. In this 30-year journey, Indian business, how has that really moved on the transparency scale? Has it made great strides? Indian business as a whole?
I think Indian businesses have moved tremendously in the area of corporate governance in the last 10 years. The Indian entrepreneurs have understood the value of price to earnings ratio. Now they say it is so much better that I save 1 rupee, so that goes to the bottom line, and that translates to 15 rupees in my wealth. So that's a wonderful lesson that corporate governance has taught our Indian entrepreneurs. So in that sense, I think there is greater and greater focus on not using the corporate resources for personal benefits. I think that's a big step forward.
And you're pleased with the progress, obviously.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
At a personal level, what matters most to you? Is it what you've done for India's image globally, and indeed you and the technology industry have really done a lot for India's image globally? Is it the wealth that you've created and shared, or is it the new business paradigm that you've helped create? Of these three, which is the most meaningful?
Well, actually, in some sense, none of these. The thing that excites me most, the thing that gives highest satisfaction to all of us founders of Infosys is the fact that we have raised the confidence of entrepreneurs in the country. By our example, these entrepreneurs would say, if these 7 jokers could do it, we can do it better. I think that is the biggest contribution of Infosys to the country, because entrepreneurship is all about creation of jobs, creation of wealth, creation of disposable income, thereby stimulating the secondary and the tertiary sectors of the economy. And on that count, I think Infosys has done a pretty good job.
And also fostering an entrepreneurial spirit within Infosys. So that's passed on, that spirit, to so many of your employees as well.
Oh yes, definitely.
Does it bother you that expectations always run so high of Narayanamurthy, of Infosys, and with the expectations always running so high and so consistently high, there's a risk of people around you expecting too much and hence facing disappointment? Does that bother you at all?
Not really, because while we take our work very seriously, we don't take ourselves very seriously. All these things would bother a person if he or she were to take himself or herself very seriously. So we don't do that. So.
And how does a corporation manage to not take itself so seriously?
No, the corporation takes it seriously, but not the individuals.
Not the individuals within the corporation.
Absolutely.